Normally, when you hear about a movie that costs $300 million, you would expect some sort of a CGI-filled, massive scope film with plenty of well-known actors receiving most of that money. The Electric State falls on the latter category. So, with a massive budget spent, no theater release, and one major movie star in the shape of Chris Pratt, and one major TV star in the shape of Millie Bobby Brown, is this movie any good? Let's find out. I'm Meffistoe. Like, share, and subscribe because this is my review of the movie, The Electric State. The Electric State is a sci-fi action-adventure movie set in a dystopian alternative timeline. The movie was directed by the Russo brothers and screenplay by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Up until a few weeks ago, I have never heard about this movie. It was Millie Bobby Brown complaining on Twitter or X about fans that can't accept that she's old now and are harassing her. That diverted my attention to this project. Then I heard about the massive budget and I immediately had Rebel Moon vibes. I make it a habit of never watching trailers involving Netflix produced projects because they always seem to underdeliver. There are some exceptions like Will Smith's Bright or Jamie Foxx's Day Shift and Project Power, but mostly it's a stickfest. So coming onto this movie, I was really cautious before pressing play on my remote, but since the only other new movie in 2025 that I covered on this channel was another streaming movie, I just shut my alarm bells off and just gave it a try. The Electric State tells of a world that had robots working in jobs that people didn't want to do anymore, like farming, construction, along with other remedial jobs. These robots had full autonomy and a functioning AI, and all this was in the 1970s and 80s. But as the clock chimed in 1990, the robots started revolting and began their war of emancipation. The humans were losing this war until a breakthrough happened, and a company called Center figured out a way to build a drone suit so that humans can fight robot to robot and win this war. The robots were pushed back and started losing, so the remaining robots signed a peace treaty that had them live on a reservation locked away from all other humans and not allowed out. Center found a way to mass market this new drone technology, and now it is a tool that everyone uses because it allows you to split your consciousness in two, and one does the day-to-day work using a drone and the other is still enjoying a good time experience. And to all this, we join Michelle, an orphan living in a foster home that she desperately wants to leave, until one day a robot who is not supposed to leave the reservation appears in her room and starts a chain of events that leads her deep into the reservation to find answers. First of all, I want to talk about the casting. I'm not a big fan of Stranger Things, so I don't have any connection or ill will towards Millie Bobby Brown. The two movies I know she's done, Enola Holmes 1 and 2, did not appeal to me, so I skipped them, in essence making The Electric State the first movie I've seen her act in. To be fair, I think she did an okay job. She had a good emotional range, especially playing off these non-existent robot characters, of course green screen, but in the few scenes where we get to see some flashbacks to establish story points, she was quite good. Let's face it, the entire movie didn't really need any super dramatic moments, and even the small comedy bits that she needed to do, she did opposite Chris Pratt that has excellent comedic timing. Which leads me to Chris Pratt himself. Honestly, I kept an open mind about him. Breaking people's first initial impression of you is very hard, especially if you get yourself typecasted all the time. The character he plays in this movie is a war veteran called Keats, who after the war ended became a smuggler. And it could have been great, but oddly enough, it gave us the 90s version of Star-Lord. Let me explain. Keats is Peter Quill if he just stayed on Earth and kept listening to contemporary music. Don't get me wrong, I quite enjoyed it, but in the way he got introduced, it fooled me to think he's gonna play a different character, more like a Jack Burton type of character. And if you know, you know. Honorable mentions go to Stanley Tucci, who plays Ethan Skate, the CEO of Center and the main antagonist. Tucci is great in any role he touches, and he's doing a pretty decent, weird Steve Jobs impression, if this was Steve Jobs from the 2000s. And Giancarlo Esposito for filling in the role of a detective/enforcer. I can't go too much into his story, but I got more out of him story-wise than I've ever expected. And to all this, I joined the robot voice actors that made it impossible for me to figure out who is who until I got to the cast list, and I was surprised. In terms of the visuals, you can tell where the money was spent. Every single robot in this movie is unique. They went with a 40s, 50s style of look that I particularly like, and it reminded me of the Fallout games in terms of the aesthetics. But the CGI on the robots was really, really good. I mean, I was looking for the flaws whenever it came to the interaction between the humans and the robots, and I couldn't find any, at least in the first 20 minutes, so I just gave up trying and just tried to enjoy the story itself. This is my issue when it comes to these movies with heavy CGI. If the CGI is done correctly and seamlessly, it allows the audience to focus on the story. Something we didn't get in the Avatar movies by Cameron, where the graphical spectacle was the main thing and the story was secondary. But when we do get to the story, hot diggity damn, this movie fails big time. There was a kernel of an original idea there. The basic story structure plus the subplots were pretty compelling and had a good pace and good progression. However, the messaging was off the chain. It was just a big pile of message after message after message. Native American issues, illegal aliens issues, and the obvious we're looking at our phones and our screens too much and not talking to each other face to face kind of a messaging. So the basic premise was good, but along with it, we had a hodgepodge of ideas from a lot of other sci-fi dystopian future movies. Movies like Ready Player One, Surrogates, The Circle, a movie with Tom Hanks and Emma Stone that I'm pretty sure most people haven't even watched, but we'll put that issue aside for a minute. And more of these movies that I don't even want to name. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be inspired by ideas in different movies and incorporating them into your own story, but it was way too much and it was way too obvious. And what we ended up with is having a really costly, decent 2-hour experience. If I would have gone to the theater to watch this on the big screen, I would be let down big time. It's fine if the movie is aimed for a streaming audience, but it's yet another one of these Netflix movies that is way too ambitious and they overpaid for. So to summarize, my recommendation on this one is this. If you have Netflix already, then it's a nice little weekend watch. If you don't, you can definitely skip this one. I don't see this movie impacting the culture as much as other similar big budget films will. But of course, time will tell on that one. I thank you for watching, and remember, hope is a good thing, maybe even the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I'll see you on the next video.